How many autistic people are there in the Diocese of Oxford? Where are they in our churches, and what are they doing? Do they have roles? Are they hiding? Are they more overt?
Well, it's a very good question, Katie. I'm glad you've asked it. We are pretty certain from the research we now have that there's 60 or 70,000 autistic people within the diocese. Probably we're looking at about 60 clergy or other fine leaders of churches who likewise are either autistic or neurodivergent, in other words, autistic, ADHD, dyspraxia, dyslexia, etc. So it's a great number of people that perhaps we haven't been that aware of. What are they doing in the churches? They could be doing anything in the churches. Some, of course, are prayer partners, some are working as youth workers, some, of course, are organists, not all of them that keen on coming out as autistic, but there they are, plying their organist trade superbly. We have people who are working on the finance side, we have creative types, we have autistic people everywhere within our church environment and of course within our wider parishes, and most of them having to hide.
I've heard some autistic friends talk about masking. Some of them have said it was a good thing, some of them have said it was quite a harmful thing. So tell us a bit more about masking.
What does it mean to mask? In other words, to try to disguise the fact that you are autistic or otherwise neurodivergent. It can be a good thing on occasion, because if you're in a new situation and you're not sure how people are going to respond to you, it can be useful as a survival practice to try to disguise the way that you normally act. But it is exhausting, and what we find is that very often people are only diagnosed when they are so exhausted they can no longer mask, no longer camouflage. And at that stage we've got anxiety, we've got depression, we've got general lack of coping, because they're simply exhausted, not because they're autistic.
So really, the earlier you can be diagnosed and be truly yourself, the better. And the sooner the church can accept that, the better as well, the more you can flourish.
I think that's right, yes, and the research we have now from the academic work that I do strongly supports that.
Has our understanding of autism changed over the years?
Yeah, certainly since the 70s it has. We only thought that we'd found autistic people in the 1940s. Where we thought they were before that is anyone's guess. Early stages, people thought it was a learning disability, and they were only looking for autistic people, a tiny number, who also had a learning disability. And that continued till about the 1980s. When all of a sudden we started thinking, hello, you know, there's an awful lot of autistic people who don't have a learning disability. How do we deal with this? And since then, the research has gone stratospheric. We now have so much more information on autism as a sensory and communication difference. And as autistic people who thrive best as ourselves, rather than as having to be corralled into performing non-autism for everyone around us. So it's been brilliant, actually, because I'm connected now with networks of people across the country, through the churches, through general society, and all of them who are now affirming this new way of thinking, and we're seeing such brilliant results from it.
And it's quite a spectrum, isn't it? I think of a comparison with cerebral palsy, which is what I have. And I think of other people in the more public eye who've also got cerebral palsy, who move very differently to me, who speak very differently or use assistive technology. So if you met me with cerebral palsy, that's one version of it. I'm guessing the same is for people who are autistic.
All autistic people have to meet certain criteria in order to get that diagnosis. So for sure, we all have commonalities. But beyond that, yeah, everyone's going to be different, and that's what makes it so fantastic to work with.
What resources are out there for people who are autistic, or supporting people who are autistic, or is there a community that people can join and connect with?
We're seeing more resources. We've got our own, of course, in-house resources here within the Diocese of Oxford, who have very kindly enabled the Welcoming Autistic People guidelines, which are now used, I think, throughout most of the Church of England, which has been brilliant. We also see work popping up in various different locations, not just here, but, for example, Diocese of London, in particular working with Inclusive Church, Heart Edge, St Martin in the Fields, various others across the country who've really taken this on board and are becoming centres of excellence. So really good to work with so many people who want to grab this opportunity to explore what it means to be Christian, what it means to be, you know, fellow journeyers, but with different brain designs, different ways of encountering the world.
And are there top tips that people can implement now, simple things they can do, simple changes they can make, which can instantly make a difference to autistic people in church?
A lot of it is around understanding the built environment and how that impacts on us. A number of people are particularly affected, for example, by flickering fluorescent lighting, which can look exactly like a strobe effect. Others will be very sensitive to particular sound frequencies, so it helps to know what's in an environment. So one of the simple things we can do is commission the work to get into the buildings and say to the autistic teams, you know, give us a quick report on this. This is the simple things we can do. None of it's too expensive, and then we've made it more accessible. We've made it more pleasant, more doable. And what we're finding, of course, from the research we did within the diocese is the moment we've done that with buildings, everyone else enjoys it more as well. We're seeing bigger visitor numbers, we're seeing bigger membership numbers in places that have become autism friendly. Partly that's welcome, partly it's just people going, yeah, we can do this, because then that becomes infectious. Everyone goes, yeah, it's okay, instead of, oh, I can't, it's too expensive, not enough time. But it's not new, because autistic people are already in the church. They're already in the leadership. You're already dealing with them, but they're hiding.
I know you know Fiona Macmillan, who is part of the Heart Edge St Martin in the Fields connection, and she talked about moving from getting in to joining in. I'm guessing that's very similar for people who are autistic, who might well be already in there, but actually trying to belong and join in is the key.
And she's right in saying that the whole joining in thing is surely what we're aiming for. I think too much access work has been focused on if you can get in somehow, even if people are having to lever you up some enormous ramp, then our job is done. But our mission is to make sure people can be with God, with community, in a way that is truly meaningful for them and joyful and productive for everyone. If we're thinking about how that happens, it is a process of inclusion. It's about family, that sense of belonging. And when that works, it's a beautiful thing.
There's something in all of this, of course, about asking the question, isn't there? So too many neurotypical people make assumptions that everything works, and therefore why make adjustments? And it begs the question that we need to ask: who's missing, who's struggling, what can we do, those of us who have the capacity and the power to make the changes, what can we do to make it better? I guess the only way we're going to know is by asking the question and saying, what's not working, what's putting you off, what makes you run back out of the door when you've only been in for 2 seconds, what needs to change, and how can we do it together? So collaboration is huge.
Yes, it is. And finding the right way to communicate, because when you're dealing with autistic and non-autistic teams trying to communicate well together, it can be much more difficult because we communicate differently.
And once people have watched this, what's the one thing you would like them to most go away and do?
I would say find that welcoming guide on the Oxford Diocese guidelines and do everything you can to just have a quick read of that, have a think about it, and get in contact. You know, I'm here as a resource, other people are here as a resource as well. We would absolutely love to help if time and space permits. So yeah, let's start that conversation.
And thank you so much for your time here today and for being who you are, and keep doing that, please. Celebrating who you are, made in God's image, and a gift to all of us.